Welcome back to this special series with the National Dairy Shrine, where we are capturing the voices and the stories of iconic people in the dairy industry. I'm Peggy Coffeen from Uplevel Dairy Podcast, joined by Peter Vail today. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great to be here with you as well. And Peter, you've had a distinguished career as a businessman and a dairy producer. You started CaroVail Fertilizer Company in 1964, and now it's in its third generation of ownership today. And you also invested heavily in dairy cattle, including Brown Swiss, Ayrshire, milking Shorthorn, and it sounds like there were some jerseys in that story as well. And this partnership, this led you to a partnership with Ken Main with the Cutting Edge Show program, where you experienced more success. And so, Peter, let's unravel this story of how you got to where you're at and what has kept you here at 86 years young with your hands and your mind still involved and excited in dairy. So, Peter, where did you grow up, and how did that path lead you to dairy?
Well, I grew up on a very commercial farms. We milked in 3 barns 2 miles apart, and each one, and we had 40 in one barn, 60 in another, and 80 in another. And this was in the 40s, and shipped in cans to a local, and this was only 45 miles north of New York City. And at that time, I started to get into the higher end cattle because in 1939, the year I was born, Dave Younger, if you know that name, you don't know that name? Well, in history, you should know that name because he was a character. He was a horseman for Dreyfus, the music producer that had the Blue Danube and all that stuff. He came from Nebraska to North Salem, New York, where I lived, and was the horseman for them in their stable. And again, about 40 miles north of New York City. My aunt was the nurse, and Dave's future wife, Rose, was the housekeeper in that. And that's how I got to know him, through my aunt being the nurse. And he then went on to work for a man by the name of Henry Crystal in Yorktown Heights, which is even closer to New York City. And it'd be interesting for you to look up the history of Hanover Hill Sales and Service and Henry Crystal. At that point, he was big in radio advertising in New York City, and a very big blowhard of a guy. Oh, he'd come in the barn in the morning and scream and curse and everything else, with everybody, and that's how Dave got to be screaming and cursing all of everybody. He did. He was a funny guy. Anyway, I went down there when I was 12 years old and showed in the little Grange fair a heifer just pulled out of there. I don't even know where I got that heifer, because we didn't raise any young stock on the farms. We would milk cows, go to the cattle dealer, trade beef for springers, and do that once a week or whatever we had to, and they keep it on a piece of yellow paper, and once a year you'd settle up. And that's the way things were done back then. So it's quite interesting.
That is.
And it worked out very well. And the cattle dealers were of German Jewish descent that fled Germany in 1939-40 and came over to the United States.
Wow.
It's quite interesting.
I bet.
And I was talking to Nate Goldenberg. You know Nate? And his family came in 1936 out of Germany. So he was familiar with the Mendels from Germany. It was kind of interesting. And anyway, that's how we started. And my family on my father's side, like I said, we milked in 3 barns, but my grandfather in 1925 built a 9-hole golf course and put up, there was a lake there called Peach Lake, and it was nothing more than a pond. A big pond, 1.5 miles long and half a mile wide. And he put tent platforms up all along the lake in 1925 now. And then would lease those tent platforms out in every summer, built a pavilion, sold Sunday or weekends, of people out of the city would come up there and you employ all the kids because the kids would take tickets, run the bathhouse, rent boats, go in the pavilion, work behind the soda counter, all that stuff. So it was quite interesting. And 1954 came, my grandfather's and mother's house sat looking over this. 1954 came with desegregation, no more. My grandmother shut it right down right there. So I thought that's interesting.
Wow, lots of history.
Yeah.
And so you grew up on a commercial dairy, a kind of the multi-site, the early version of the multi-site commercial dairy as a kid. But then the first little show calf, is that what got you hooked on showing?
Yes, and then I went working with Dave Younger, and he and I went to New York State Fair. I went with him in 1954, 55. I was 16, and I went with him and at that time the State Fair had all these beautiful old Guernsey herds, McDonald's farms, and Asher herds, Meredith farms, big investor farms. And he was with the Hanover Hill String and all these, and they would have these wonderful managers, herdsmen there, several of them, not just one or two, there'd be 10 like that. Lee's Hill, Vernon Hall, even Sliker wasn't ready yet, he came along later.
Wow.
But it was quite a deal.
Yeah, were you just wide-eyed in wonder when you saw those show strings as a kid?
And at that time, everybody slept in the barns. You didn't go to motels, you slept in the barns. And what was interesting, you get a hot time like this, and Henry Thomas with McDonald Farms put a feed bucket in front of every cow with a block of ice in the feed bucket. They put their nose on that block of ice and keep it right there all day. And they'd be just as cool as could be. So it's quite interesting how things change, but they really don't change, as far as cow comfort and stuff.
So cows have been a part of your life from a very early age, and your business career took you into fertilizer. So how did that happen? How did you go from the kid growing up on the dairy, getting involved in the showing and seeing some of that, and then get into that side of the business?
Well, in 1960, I got out of college. And in 61, I came home. And my father said to me, "No, you don't need to be here on this farm. You'll go buy a farm. And then there's a herd of brown Swiss cattle Herman Zollinger had in Somers, New York, or in Carmel, New York." I said, fine. So we went north and I bought a farm for $75,000. I bought the cows and equipment for $36,000. And I never put it, that was all borrowed money, all of it. And we moved north about 100 miles from where we were, where this farm was. Bought the farm from a cattle dealer named, wait a minute now, I'll tell you, Leo Kaplan. And anyway, we got there and we hit drought for 3 years in a row.
Oh.
So we didn't have crops. And it got to be pretty bad. So in 1964, February, the snowbanks a mile high, we sold out. And when I got all done, we were paid all my bills, and I was $10,000 short, which I thought was really good for that time of year. And we got that paid off, and then I got out of it. And then I went to work for a international harvester dealership and a feed company. They did both, and small, and talked to them. And I got through that. There was a new fertilizer deal. These blend plants had just started up, not ammoniation plants where they put everything in one pellet. These were physically blended fertilizer in a cement mixer type thing. Put the ingredients in there, come out with a product. And a guy by the name of Bob Battis, who I'd known for a number of years, said to me, I'm going to move up to be district manager. You want to run this plant? So I said, sure, I'll run that fertilizer plant. And they were going to pay me $6,000 a year in 1965. And then 0.5% on all sales. I said, fine. So then we go through the spring, and there were other fertilizer plants up the road that they owned, but I would stop trucks by the red light and say, come get it from our plant. So we did that. And when I got done that spring, we had a demurrage bill for the railroad. The trains were lined up. I think I had 33 of them on the track at one time. And so they get all said and done, and I said, where's my money for the sales? Well, you had to merge. We can't pay you. I said, you didn't say anything about the merge. Pay me. And by that time, it was Kerr-McGee was the name of the company, oil company out of Oklahoma City. And they did. Then they thought, well, he's pretty good to get us for that. So in 68, I moved up to be assistant regional manager and went into an office in an old broken down town in Connecticut. And we went down there for a year. And that's when it was transitioning from the regional company that owned it to Kerr-McGee and so on. So then went all Kerr-McGee, and we moved out of that old building and up to West Springfield, Massachusetts, by Big E, across the street from me, Big E, and into an old Gil Barco office building. And we had an office there, it was fine. So then my wife and I moved to Wilbraham, Massachusetts, in 69 to 77. And Kerr-McGee was involved all that time. And I was assistant regional manager and a fellow named Clem Burr, he was the regional manager. But the poor man died like 2 or 3 years later. So then I became regional manager. The worst part of that was we'd have to go to Oklahoma City every month for 3 days. I'd fly from Hartford to Chicago, Chicago to Oklahoma City. And I'd meet the guy from right here, Madison, Wisconsin, Art, I can't even remember his last name, in Chicago at the same bar with the same bartender every month for 11 months. And then we go down to Oklahoma City and catch hell because this man named Jim Rainey, who was military police in Korea. And I mean, he thought you were cheating him every step of the way. So he went through that every month for a day and a half, and then we'd leave and go home and everything's fine. So it was stupid, I'm telling you. Every month but December, didn't matter. You're down there.
Aww.
And so that lasted till 77. And Kerr-McGee sold us to Agrico, which was owned by the other oil company in Tulsa, Williams Company. Anyway, they did all that, and they said, well, we're going to close up your office, And we had 13 people in the office. I called them all in, and I said, we're going to be the first office to close up. And I had the booze and everything under my counter. I took it all out and put it on the desk. We had a party. Now I said, go find jobs. Well, we're still paying you. And I said, I'm not going till you all have jobs. And they got all jobs in a matter of 3 weeks. So that was pretty cool. And they got jobs with farm credit. They got jobs, good jobs everywhere.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that. Then we moved to Newark, Delaware. Whew, that was a trip. And this is in 1977. I got down there and we lived in a Covered Bridge Farms was the name of the place. I think we were the only people in there that didn't work for DuPont. And they'd all come out with a briefcase and their trench coats and their pork pie hats and stand by the driveway with this briefcase every morning waiting for the car pool to pick them up. I said, Jesus. I said, and we tried to get a membership at Newark Country Club, got blackballed because we didn't work for DuPont.
So they own the town.
Said, oh yeah, they owned the whole town. So I said, well, the hell with this. And I was going through 30 red lights to get to work. That lasted about a year. And I said, wait a minute. And then, in the meantime, I had the privilege of closing up all our old plants in the Northeast where we had duplicates, where they had a plant, we had a plant. They'd keep one, and then the other one, they were 6 miles apart. All that kind of stuff. I closed all those up in 77, 78. And then I said to my wife, I said, we're getting the hell out of here. So I went to Charleston and met with a partner down there, and I had a pro forma statement for one fertilizer plant. And went down there right at first of the year, 1979. And met with them. And the way that went, and it's the way they still do business, oh, let's go to the yacht club and have dinner and have a drink, and we'll get this thing figured out. We went there, and Mr. Phillips says to me, you know, this could work. How about we each put in $40,000 and we'll borrow $50,000. That's $130,000. I said, that'll be good. That's okay. Because my wife's folks had died and she had some money, so that's how I knew where I got the damn money. And so that's what we did. And she was a trooper. We had bought a house in Delaware for like $90,000, beautiful ranch house. And I said, well, come February, or January, February, I said, I'm out of here. I'm going north to buy the damn old plants. And I called up a real estate broker in Kinderhook, New York, where we were. And I said, you don't know me, I don't know you, but here's what I want you to do. I said, I want you to go over there. They got a for sale sign on that old plant in Iberville, broken down old plant. And you buy that for $46,000. That's what I was asking or something. But I said, not in my name, you put it in your name. Because I was still working for him.
So those are the plants that you were familiar with from, so you went and bought them.
Yeah.
But not under your name.
No. And I said to him, all right, Ron, how much you want? How much you charge me for? Well, it's normally 7%. I said, how about $1,000? He says, okay. So we did a dual closing for $1,000, And then went up there and went in the old building, and they'd left the office door open and the pipes froze. I said, leave the door open, don't close it, because I'll take that off the $46,000. They broke all the pipes. So we did all that stuff. Crazy. Then I went around to other plants that I'd closed, and I bought bin boards and blenders and all the equipment to go in these places for next to nothing. I had a millwright that still works for us. His son still works for us today. Really? Yeah. And we did all that stuff. So it was a time.
And that's the start of CaroVail.
Yeah.
And CaroVail is the short name for?
Carolina Eastern Vail, because our partner's Carolina Eastern. And now my son is president. My grandson works there. My granddaughter works there. So they're all involved in the business.
So that was the start of a third generation family business.
And it's grown now to gross sales of about $150 million.
Wow.
So
is that what you thought it would become?
No, not really. And we've done a good job of hiring. And we're very, very, I wouldn't say lucky with people, but we treated people very well. I wasn't afraid to pay people, because I said, salaries and money is the easiest thing. If somebody isn't working properly, you fire them. You don't underpay them, because then they're all grumpy and growly and they want to leave. No, overpay them, if anything. So today they've got people who are paying $150,000, $200,000 a year to. They're in management, and it's fine.
Yeah. Wow. So the business built, you spent a lot of your time and focus growing that and building that from nothing into something.
Then I didn't get back into cattle till with jerseys in the 1990s.
So what did that look like? What brought you back?
I kind of always had it in my blood.
Yeah.
And we had, at that time, in 83, 85, 86 is when Hanover Hill was having huge sales. I went to the one in Madison Square Garden, a designer fashion sale at Madison Square Garden. And I'm standing up and watching this thing, you know, going on. And a guy comes up next to me and says, "Did Harrison Ford's cow sell yet?" And I turned around and looked, it was Jack Nicholson.
What?
Yeah, that's back in the high-flying investor days, really high-flying days.
Harrison Ford and Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, we're there. And that was quite a deal.
Wow.
So, and there were a lot of investors around at that time. I actually was a general contractor to build a barn in 1981 for a plastic surgeon, and I don't know what Peter was, a lawyer, I guess. But the Jewish guys, and they were something else. You got to go out to Rochester, Minnesota in 1981 and buy something in Bartell's sale, Henry Bartell's sale out there. And at that time, I was telling people I went out there, and this little old red cow came off a truck from Young America, Minnesota, and just manure balls hanging all over, you know, mess. And so they called me up, "Did you find that red cow?" I said, "Yeah, I found her in the middle of the night unloading." And there was a fitter there from Frankfurt, New York. So anyway, they said, "Well, you know, take her to $10,000. I said, "Okay." So I did, and didn't get her. Gordy got her. "Why the hell did you keep going?" I says, "Not my money, you know. You tell me, well, go buy her. So I go up to the fitter and I said, "Gordy, how much you want?" "Oh, you know, $500. I said, "No, $2,500 would be better." So I said, "There, let's do it that way." So then the investors had to pay $12,500. The hell with it. It's just, you know, some of the stuff gets stupid. And that cow then sold for $36,000 2 years later in that thing in Madison Square Garden.
Wow. So she's a good investment.
I guess. There were some other ones that were, you know, it was all funny money though. You don't know where the hell the cow even went. It was strange.
I think that sounds like a book. Mm-hmm. Have you written that one yet?
No, I haven't. But who knows all that stuff is Napholz. Norman Napholz does, and he gets involved in writing that stuff. Millionaires in the Cornfield and that kind of stuff. Those books, have you ever seen those? You should get one. Millionaires in the Cornfield, and the next one was Queens of the Breed or something like that. Isn't that right? He's written 2 or 3 books. Okay,
but that was an era that you're quite familiar with yourself, that you lived with, and the era of the investors, the high dollars, the high flyers. Mm-hmm. And so you got involved then as a guy buying cows, kind of brokering a little bit back and forth.
Then I quit because I had to make money in the fertilizer business. So I didn't do much with it until the 90s when I got a few jerseys with a customer, you know, that lived there. We went to in Canada, in Quebec. Can't remember what the heck. It was a very high, fancy Jersey herd, and I bought like 6 or 7 there and brought them home, and they did well. And then Ernie Kiefner and I bought a animal named Deja Vu, Jersey, primetime Deja Vu, and for I forget how much we paid for her, and then sold her in this 2006 in our Jersey sale to Ratlifts for $40,000. And that's really the backbone of their Jersey herd in Kansas, is that cow. And several other herds go back to that cow too. So it's quite interesting.
So that was your entry back in with the Jersey breed. Mm-hmm. And then you took a little time back in the fertilizer business.
Then in 2005, I bought Griffin, Jersey cow. I had just had open heart surgery, and I was sitting in a pizza joint in Hillsdale, New York, having lunch, and Nabholz called me up, told me about this Jersey cow, and I bought her on the phone for like $82,000, sitting there eating a pizza, and I said, now what am I going to do with her? He says, well, you know, there's a young couple just starting out in Lamira, Wisconsin. So she went over to Bud John, and that started our Bud John partnership in 2005.
So let's put a little frame of reference around this timeline.
Yeah.
So you're at that point, well, you're 86 now, Peter. This was about 20 years ago, so here you are, 66. I love the part of your story that you just had open heart surgery and then we're eating pizza, but clearly it's worked out all right for you.
So far.
And made that investment in that cow, and that started the partnership with Bud John.
Yes, and she came home and was in, when I went up the road, you know, to Bud John, she's in the same pasture with Elegance going up the road.
Wow, that must have been a sight to see.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
And we had really great luck with that cow. She'd been grand here. She was grand a couple of times in Louisville, and she did very well.
Wow.
And we sold stuff out of her. And at that time, they were young. We had not gotten involved, or at that point, you didn't do much embryo transfer work back in 20 years ago. So, but that's all changed too.
Yeah. Well, and so that was just one of the cows that you had great success with. In your career, you've had, what, 5 champions? 5 champions here at World Dairy Expo?
Swiss. I think Delilah twice, Gretchen, come on, I can't think of the other names. There's 2 more. There were 5 Swiss, and Black Sea was supreme in 2017, the Holstein. Delilah was supreme in 18 and 19, but by then we had sold her to Kenny Joe Mannion and Ken Main, because we had that sale in 2019. And I've had champions here with Shorthorns 3 times, and with Asher's twice now, I think. Carmina, and now this cow. I may have been one, or Carmina twice too, I'm not sure.
Wow.
So we've had a good run here.
Yes.
Really.
Which cow stands out to you the most? Which is the one that maybe has a little bit special meaning for
I
you,
think
Peter?
it's got to be Delilah,
Yeah?
the Swiss.
What made
She's
her so
still alive.
special to you?
She's still alive. Her personality
Yeah.
and her ability to just hang out and chill out and not get excited. She's really it's the kind of a cow that's easy keeper, and you just, you walk in, she's got a little hole in the wall where she's taken care of. Yeah, it's not a fancy place. And she's just there, and her nose stuck out the door, chewing her cud.
She's just a good old girl, huh?
Good old girl.
Yeah. Wow.
And she's still alive, still flushing her. So.
Yeah. So, when you look at the success that you've had with cattle, especially over this last couple of decades, if a young person came to you and asked you for just a few key pieces of advice of what it takes to be successful in the dairy business, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to go to work somewhere where you can get all the knowledge you can get from somebody that's very, very positive and knows the industry. And don't short circuit that at all. Make sure you know all there is to know, and suck up the knowledge as best you can, because that's huge. And then you can go find something to buy or to invest in or whatever, because don't start off trying to do that and then go over here and say, now what do I do?
So build the knowledge, then make the investment.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's good advice.
Yeah.
And when you look at your career in dairy and business, what are you most proud of, Peter?
I guess I'm most proud of my family, number one.
Yeah.
And the way they've conducted themselves in this life, and continue to do so. Been very fortunate. My direct family, there were 4 of us. I was the oldest, and I have to tell everybody, I was the only one that did not go to Europe and did not go to private school.
And you turned out all right, huh?
My 3 siblings did. They all did that.
Sounds like it all worked out all right for you, didn't it, Peter?
I've lost 1 sister. The other 3 of us are in pretty good health, and the youngest one being 75, and my brother's 82, and I'm 86. So we're hanging in there pretty good right now.
Yeah. So. Well, then let me finish out our conversation with this. What's next? What's your next goal? What's your next ambition?
My next ambition is to see how long I can stay alive, I guess. But I don't know. You know, no matter how you slice it, I'm getting near the end of the road here in this lifetime. And I have to tell you this, but I have not arranged any funeral arrangements or burial plots. I said, heck, the kids are going to have to take care of that, not me. And I just want to continue to hopefully keep my mind sharp. My body's not sharp, but hopefully I can get that fixed a little bit and still continue to get around and enjoy life. And my wife can hold on and keep us both going.
Aw. Well, Peter, you're doing a fantastic job today of keeping that mind sharp. My goodness, your recall for dates and significant moments in your life and career, but also truly significant moments in the dairy history story as well. And we thank you for sitting down with us, taking this time out of World Dairy Expo, when I know there's a spot over in the show ring on the other side of us that's calling your name.
It's my phone's ringing like crazy. I don't know what they're calling about.
But we just thank you for taking the time to sit down with us,
Peggy,
and tell your story, and look forward to sitting down with you 10 years from now when you're 96 and hearing what has transpired then.
I hope you're having fun interviewing all us old guys.
Oh, I sure am. Well, thank you so much, Peter. And once again, I'm Peggy Coffeen from the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, sharing stories like these with Peter and capturing the voices and the faces and the people that have made dairy history for National Dairy Shrine.